My name is Dr. Arthur McClinu. I've dedicated my life to providing surgical care to patients with heart disease. My life began in the slums of Soweto in South Africa, where I learned to overcome adversity and illnesses, including the death of my best friend. That's why I want to be a resource for you and your family for consultation related to heart and cardiovascular needs. You can learn more about me by visiting my website, which is at zuluchescutter.com.
Sports and entertainment show. I am your host, Wilbur Skipper, also known as Mr. Self-Empowerment. We are taping live at the Society Lounge, 8229 Georgia Avenue in Silver Spring, Maryland. What a great establishment, folks. If you have not made it down to the Society Lounge, I highly encourage you to put it on your to-do list for 2013. You will not be disappointed. Once again, the Society Lounge, 8229 Georgia Avenue in Silver Spring, Maryland. As always, folks, I'm very excited. We have a dynamite show on tap for you this evening. Before I introduce our guests, please help me welcome my co-host, the very excitable, the very vibrant, Rain. Our guest hails from the Washington metropolitan area. She attended Duke Ellington School for the Arts. She is one of the, and I want you to get this, she is one of the most sought after costume designers in Hollywood. Yes, Hollywood as in Hollywood, California.
Exciting.
Please help me welcome the one and only Johnetta Boone.
Excited to have you.
Okay.
Excited to have you.
Okay, folks, I'm going to do this a little different. I have to tell this story because there's a lesson learned in this story.
It's a good one.
I'm going to go back to probably September, August. I first met Johnetta Boone in church, First Baptist Church of Glen Arden. I went to school with her husband, played basketball with him at Anacostia High School. We had some dialogue in the hallway after church, a great service to say the least. And Johnetta Boone walks out of the bookstore, and her husband introduces me to his lovely wife and his kids, and we exchange business information, and we talk about possibly getting Johnetta on the show. Folks, there's a lesson that I want you to learn from this, and please get this, young folks and older folks. We have been corresponding, emailing, texting since that time. Johnetta has a very busy schedule, but we didn't give up. And the lesson learned here is that sometimes when you want things to happen on your time, it's not the right time. God's time is the best time, and when God wants it to happen, it will happen. And so we're elated and ecstatic to have Johnetta Boone on this set today. I hope I said it right, folks. I did not practice this. This came right off my tongue. Johnetta, we have you here. True story?
Yes, absolutely.
I mean, true story.
Yes.
Now, we have a lot to talk about.
Yes.
And Rain has done a masterful job
Well,
of coming to understand how you think, how you walk, and what you do.
I've got a lot of questions. Let's put it that way.
But I want to go back. I want to start at the beginning.
Yes.
When did you first think or believe, you want to go back to Duke Ellington, you can, that this vision, what you're doing now, how did that come into play?
It actually came into play at Duke while I was attending Duke Ellington. I was a visual arts major. I was part of a whole fashion trend at the school, and then I sort of had a vision that one day I could possibly reach the Hollywood sector, but didn't know how it was going to happen because I was from Anacostia. Being a young black girl with absolutely no connections at the time, it didn't seem attainable.
Wow, that's interesting. Well, I like the fact that you said Anacostia.
Yes.
Because unfortunately, there's a myth sometimes that's attached to Anacostia.
Yes.
And some folks believe that if you grew up in Southeast Washington, D.C., or you went to Anacostia High School, all that kind of stuff, that you were not going to make it. Well, you are a true example
Yes.
of what can happen if you persevere, keep your mind focused.
Yes.
It's not a bad place to be, and obviously you're making it happen right now.
Absolutely. Well, Anacostia used to have a stigmatism or have a certain status that was not desirable, but now it's not that case at all.
Right.
It's the extended Capitol Hill area.
Exactly.
But indeed, when I was going to school or growing up in the Anacostia area, I was bused to Georgetown 2 hours every morning and every evening to go to Duke Ellington.
Wow.
And I got on the bus at 6 o'clock in the morning. We stayed after school, and then I didn't get home sometimes until 8 o'clock at night.
Sacrifice.
Because it was a sacrifice indeed.
Yeah, and so, go ahead.
But the arts persevered. I mean, it's a wonderful opportunity, and it just changed my life, as you can see.
Because you're sitting here today.
Yes.
I love the fact that you talk about the challenges from Anacostia coming. Can you talk to us about a little bit about that
Sure.
driver? How different it was? Like, were you the only one on the bus, and they're like, so "We're picking her up from Anacostia. She's different." Did you feel different, or what was challenging at that point?
Actually, I didn't feel different at all because the way my background is, my family raised me to always feel like I was a part and never really recognize the color barriers that were present. So I got on the bus, kept my head up, kept my nose in the air, so to speak, but also had a clear mind. Cross the barrier, because once you leave Anacostia, you cross into the Capitol Hill area, then you cross into Georgetown. It's obviously a completely different world. You get off the bus, you walk 2 blocks to school, and then you recognize an environment that's almost like a dream. I mean, it's a large, Duke Ellington's a large white building,
Right.
That was just full of creativity, spurring from the stone that it was existing in. So it was quite wonderful.
Well, when we go back, because we all have a story,
Sure.
who are some of the people early on in your life that played a very valuable role in where you are right now as Johnetta Boone, this most sought-after costume designer in Hollywood, California? I mean, who were some of those people?
Well, I have to first say my mother, of course, because, my mother was she was a local fashion designer, and she taught me how to sew, and during the course of my sewing, learning moments in time, I made several mistakes, and I would throw things in the garbage and think that, sort of kick it under the table and think that it would go unnoticed, and it didn't. And so my mother would take it out of the trash and say, okay, now take it apart and start over again. And of course, that was devastating because who
Challenging.
wants to do that?
Yeah.
Especially as a young girl, I was 12, 13 years old, and I did not want to do that at all. But that set the standard for me, because once I entered into, for instance, interactions with my art teachers at Ellington, and when they say, okay, take the clay apart and start over again with your sculpture, it was easy for me to do, easier than it would have been otherwise. And then going from there, my teachers, Bill Harris and a couple of my other teachers, Mr. Wilson, they had a great part in my development stage. And then once I left Duke Ellington and went to New York to go to college, Joanne Butler, who was a great catalyst in everything that happened in my life, she was my dear friend's aunt, and she was an editor at Harper's Bazaar. She went freelance and then brought us in as her assistants, and that's where it all sort of began.
So you were surrounded around a lot of people
Yes.
that, ideally speaking, was already almost kind of speaking this into existence.
Yes.
When it came to you in terms of your future.
Yes.
Did you realize that then, before Rain jumps in? Did you realize that at that time?
I didn't realize it at the time, because when you're young, you don't really focus and hone in on how your life is birthing before you. But it's good, because if you do that, you could take advantage of opportunities that may not be the ones that you need to step into at the time, because you think you know what's going on, as opposed to allowing your life to sort of grow and enhance and develop, before you, and allow people to pour into your life.
Wow.
And as a result of my stepping back out of the frame of things and letting people pour into my life began to really harvest. You plant a seed, you have to water
Watch
it,
it grow.
it harvests, and then you watch it grow. And then as it grew, I was like a bird that was birthed by, a mother bird. And then they left, and they kicked me out of the nest and said, okay, now it's your time to fly. I didn't say, when is my time to fly? I'm ready now. They said to me, you're ready. And I said, not yet. And they said, yes, you are. And I said, not yet. And they said, yes, you are. And so as a result, when they pushed me out, I was ready. I had a strong foundation. I was completely prepared and then set up to succeed as opposed to setting myself up to fail.
Well, folks, we're going to come right back. It's getting fired up on the set.
Yeah,
Y'all don't see the
Great
smoke,
lesson. We got a
the
lot of
smoke that's
questions.
coming. Before Rain jumps in, we're going to take a commercial break. We're going to pay some bills. We'll be right back on the Roland Grimes, Not Just Sports and Entertainment Show. Sit tight.
Oh, I got some.
Sports Entertainment Show. If you missed the first segment, folks, we have the dynamite, the one and only Johnetta Boone.
In the house.
I can't help but say it, but yes, she's one of the most sought after costume designers in Hollywood, California. Yes, we did get it right. Before we left to go to break, Rain had several questions that she wanted to address, so I'm going to let you just run with it.
No.
And I'll jump back in.
All right, you can jump back in. I'm so excited to be talking about you because you're all the buzz and people need to know your name and your work. But we talked about your childhood early on and who was influential to you. You spoke about your mother and her planting the seed, so to speak. So if you can take us back to that moment before we jump into what you're currently doing now, and sort of talk about some of the advice that she gave you growing up that has stayed with you and sort of been a foundation for your work going forward, and just other advice for people shaping you. Because I think a lot of times, the formative years are very influential for positive or negative reasons. And for you, what your mother was at that point, or advice that she gave you then.
Well, it's actually very interesting because I did not plan to go to Duke Ellington at all.
You did not?
I did not. I was supporting a friend who went to audition for the art department.
Okay.
And she said, will you come with me? Well, the only way that I could go with her was to audition myself.
Oh,
so,
okay.
And I didn't find that out until later. So I said, sure, I'll come with you. And then it became apparent that I had to audition in order to sort of go as support.
Right.
So I auditioned. She did not get in, and I did. I was accepted. So when I was accepted, I thought, there's no way I'm getting on a bus and going to Duke Ellington by myself. And it's 2 hours away. There's just no way. But my mother said, what do you mean you're not going? Absolutely you're going. Do you know what kind of opportunity this is? And I said, well, yeah, sure, but no. And she said, yes, you are. And I almost went, to the point of kicking and screaming without actually physically kicking and screaming. So when I got on the bus to go, it was a little devastating initially because it's a completely different world coming from Anacostia and going to Georgetown. But then once I landed in the area, became sort of a part of the student body at the school, it was phenomenal. So it's no one wants to listen to their parents, so to speak, especially as a young, tween, because that's what I was at the time.
And how old were you again for folks to understand?
I was 13. 13 because I
wrestling
started
with this decision at that young age.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. When I was accepted, and then I went into Ellington at the 9th grade. So I was, 14. And I had to get on a bus and travel by myself for 2 hours, which was not a big deal because I would ride my bike all over the city. But it's different when you're going into an environment that's completely cultured with people from all different parts and walks of life, in addition to different cultural backgrounds. So when I got there, of course I can thank my mother for pushing me a little bit further. At the time, I wasn't celebrating that at all.
Yeah. Well, one question is because sometimes you look at successful people or not, or people aspiring to do things, and they said, well, I've always known, or inside me there was always this thing, I was different, I stood out. In my mind, was there that for you, even though you went not kicking and screaming, so to speak, but you got the audition that your friend was supposed to go to?
Right.
Was there something beyond, and your mom, you're sewing stuff, and your mom saying, you're throwing in the trash, she's saying, no, let's do that. Was there something from the get-go that you knew, I've got a gift, or there's something just about me that I do differently, or I stand out in my mind?
I did.
Okay.
I absolutely did know that I was different. I was set apart from, sort of the family.
Okay.
In terms of those that are in my immediate family.
And how many siblings?
I don't have any. I'm the only child.
Okay.
I'm the only child, and I have 2 first cousins.
Okay, so
So
that
we're
was a
very
small.
So we're a very small family, but I knew that I had sort of a creative spur, and that I was different from them in my way of thinking, because most creative people think outside the box, as opposed to within the parameters of 45-degree angles constantly.
Right.
So it was apparent to me, though I didn't know how to embrace it, because if you think about it, it's artistic creativity, especially back in the 70s, wasn't something that was celebrated. It was something that was hidden.
Or encouraged, sure.
Or encouraged.
Yeah.
So my mom encouraged me, my dad, they always put me out there, go do your thing, just do it appropriately and be respectful. So when I got to that point, and I was also very shy and very bashful, so I didn't quite know how to embrace who I was. And then once I discovered that I had this artistic edge, this little bit of swag. Exactly.
Swag.
Exactly.
So costume designing swag.
She has swag.
I like it,
Johnetta
Skip.
Boone has swag.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it was great because when I got to school, you know, I dressed different than everyone. And even my teachers, they're like, you cannot come to school dressed like that every day. You have to come prepared to paint and sculpt and do the things that are necessary. And so I broke it way down, you know, and I had to change that way of presenting myself, but I still had something on the inside that was different and set apart from everything else. Once I got beyond that, I still never thought that, you know, this Hollywood was attainable because of where I'm from. I mean, if you're not, at the time, specifically in California, there was no way. You're just completely out of the league of everything, you know. So then I left. Once I graduated from Ellington, I went to New York to go to college at FIT. And that's where it all sort of started to blossom.
Yeah. Well, we're going to be taking a break very soon, and then I'm going to disappear. And so you won't see me. You'll just see these two beautiful young ladies here still talking about a great, great topic. So before I vacate the set, and I'm sad that I have to leave, but I have to go.
We got stuff to talk about, though.
For those of you out there, I want you to listen to the definition of what she does as a costume designer. Listen to her definition. Johnetta, you told me what you do and how you do it. Can you quickly, I think we have about a minute before we go to break.
Absolutely.
Can you just give them a definition of what you do?
Yes. As a costume designer, my role is to outfit every person in the film that I am a part of. So that's everyone from the people with speaking roles to the people in the background. My eyes run across every single person, and then I dress every actor that's on camera. If it's a movie that is period, that is before this time and not present day, then I dress every single person in the film.
Okay, folks, I think she said that very eloquently. We're getting ready to take a station break. When we come back, these two young ladies are going to be there. Stay tuned. Please don't go anywhere. You don't want to miss this last part with Johnetta Boone and the lovely Miss Ray.
Stay tuned.
We'll be right back. Okay, I'm done. Thank you.
Show. We are live tonight with the one and only Johnetta Boone, Hollywood's hottest costume designer, in my opinion, and by the end of the night, it will be in all of our opinions. So to recap, she's just been talking to us about how she's gotten where she has been, and I want to talk to her tonight about her current projects, what she's doing. A lot of favorites, a lot of movies you've heard about, For Colored Girls, The Notebook, Runaway Bride, just a bunch of stuff that she's been involved in, Cadillac Records, just to name a few. So let's talk to Johnetta right now about what she's currently working on and what we can look forward to and her recent work. Johnetta?
I've actually been on quite a trend and a sort of a long-running train with Tyler Perry.
Oh, we love Tyler Perry.
Yes, I mean, he's the busiest man in Hollywood
Is he
right
not?
now. Oh my gosh.
I mean, does he get a day off, as do you?
Yeah, I don't think he does, and I don't either. But today's my one day off.
Okay, great. We're
So
lucky
we
to have
did.
you.
I did a movie called The Marriage Counselor with him, which releases March 29th.
That is coming up. Again, The
Yes.
Marriage Counselor, March this
29th.
year, next
yes,
month.
Yes, next
Tell
month.
us a little bit about it.
Yes, it's actually quite wonderful. It's a little bit of a drama depicting, you know, a young woman who has a law major. She goes in to do some marriage counseling as a junior counselor.
Yeah.
You know, Vanessa Williams is her mentor.
Oh,
And so what happens is she sort of gets a little bit fed up and decides that she's going to go open her own company, you know, and then sort of just go out there on her own while she's working for someone else. And then things happen. She gets a little bit entangled in a relationship and she's not quite sure how to get out.
Always
The trailer
a
is
relationship.
online. Yes.
The trailer is
always.
online. You guys, the
trailer
Marriage
is online.
Counselor coming out next month.
Yes.
Well, let's talk about, you have worked with Hollywood greats. So let's just go back to the last one for Color Girls. We've got Whoopi Goldberg, we've
Yes.
got Janet Jackson, we've
Yes.
got Loretta Devine,
Yes.
and then now with Vanessa Williams. What is your relationship with them on this set? And, you know, can you talk to us a little bit about that? Because I know folks are interested in your relationship with some of the stars.
Sure. Well, it's quite wonderful. It's actually quite wonderful when you have actors that are very, very well respected,
Yes.
seasoned,
Yes.
and grounded in their work, allowing me to create their character for them through their costume. And it's a great deal of respect on that part from them for me, and trust.
Well, that's a good point. But and you know how, you know, as women specifically, let alone black women in some of these films, what you look for, that's part of who you are. That's how you exude. If my hair looks crazy, I don't feel good. If
Yes.
my outfits, so you are really, you know, encompassing a part of what's important to them. So can you talk to us about one-on-one? Do you meet with the actors one-on-one saying, you know, or what's the process, if you can explain to us, to fit Janet Jackson, to fit, you know, Loretta Devine, right? Or Kimberly Elise, one of those, and what's the process in that situation?
Sure, well, first I meet with the director and the producers, and then I present to them the conceptual idea that I have for the characters. Some of the actors have their own stylist that they bring with them. So Janet Jackson, because of her caliber and her status, comes with her own everything. Then I collaborate with them. I give them the palette. Yes, I give them the palette, what the idea is for the show, and then they present to me what their ideas are, and then I approve them. Then the rest of the cast, you know, Loretta Devine, Felicia Richard, Whoopi Goldberg, Tandy Newton, all of them, I interact with them. I present to them the conceptual idea of the look for their character, either in a sketch or on what we call a mood board, because the mood boards set the mood for the movie. Exactly.
Absolutely.
So I present it to them. 9 times out of 10, we're exactly in the same place. And then I move forward to either present by way of having made their costume or by way of shopping for those exact pieces. Sometimes I can't find those pieces, so I have to make them because they just don't exist. Or I will dye them or tailor them in a certain way, embellish them in a way, you know, so that it fits the character.
Well, talk to me a little bit about, so the challenges, is it a personality challenge when you're working with specific individuals, or what makes it a seamless process? Like your comfort level with the character on script or the actor or actress that you are working with? What's the difference and what are the challenges there, if you can speak to that?
Sometimes there are a few challenges because the actor doesn't quite, I would say, absorb the character that they're portraying. And if the character that they're portraying is a true-to-life person, then I want to not compromise the integrity of that person. And what I'd like to do is stay as close to the true-to-life individual as possible. Sometimes it's a little tricky because the actor brings in their own personal idea, and they want to tweak it a little bit because they'd like to have a little more creative control. Most times what happens is I very cautiously steer them back into the direction so that the integrity of the project isn't compromised.
Not compromised. And sticking to the script in that sense.
Yes. Sometimes I have to veer off a little bit, but that's a collaboration between myself, the director, and the producers. Just how far we can go to allow the actor to be to have more creative control.
And is it sometimes because that's how they think it should be, or it's their personality off screen that is influencing their opinion?
A lot of times it's their personality off screen.
Okay, so you won't know that. That's fair.
Yes.
Well, I'm so excited because we're about to take a break right quick, but we have a lot of questions about where you're going, what your vision is going moving forward, and more about you and the great work that you do. Please join us back in a second at the Roland GRIMES, not just sports and entertainment show. We're live tonight at Society Lounge, 8229 Georgia Avenue, with the one and only Johnetta Boone. Please join us in just a minute. Thank you. I feel like I could interview for a month.